Thank you for coming. I'm Mateo. This guy here, this handsome guy here, is Juampy. This is Prague, DrupalCamp Prague. They bring this giant Drupal toy, and we work together at Lullabat. We have fun. We do Drupal stuff. I feed him sometimes. Yeah, not always. We work remote, so he lives in Madrid, I live in Mallorca, so we don't have this many occasions. So we have to make the best of them. We basically do mostly the same thing. We are both mostly back-end developers. We have our own skill set, but yeah, more or less we do the same thing. So this talk is about Drupal and AngularJS, as you may have noticed. So there are two important things that you should know in order to understand this session. One of them is what a front-end developer is, and
maquetador.
And the other thing is what a back-end developer is.
Picador.
Okay.
Picator. So basically we're going to cover these topics throughout the whole talk. So we wanted to explain first clearly what they are. There is one more. There is the verb decouple. At Lullabat we started talking about this more and more because we realized that even though Drupal's APIs are great, there are some areas that you don't really need to do something with Drupal. You can do something else. You can take that responsibility out of Drupal and use a different technology to implement that. And that started being really fun. And the thing is that it has been so successful in some of the projects we have made that we want to do it more and more. So we are exploring how far can we get decoupling stuff from Drupal and letting Drupal doing what it's best at, which is managing content. So that's why decoupling in Drupal means taking away logic from the server, from the Drupal side, and moving it to the client, mainly obviously in JavaScript.
So the basic idea, the general idea under this concept of decoupling is that you could have Drupal rendering an HTML document in where you can put just a div, an empty div, and pass along some JavaScript, some data to the client, and then with this data, you render a different page. So in this case, you have the HTML tags, you have the div tag, and you pass along the title that gets rendered with an H1 here, but that H1 is in the front end. Okay, so the idea is simple. There's no rocket science under this, and that's it. Thank you.
Let's go for a beer. So,
okay, just a bit more.
You want to go over this? So this would be the main reasons why we started doing this. First of all, it's really hard to find someone that really knows how the theming system works in Drupal and how to do it the right way. So when you're looking for talent, when you're looking for a front-end developer for your team, is really hard to find people who knows how the hell Drupal's theming system works. So by moving this to the client, we are letting them use whatever technology they want to make a front-end site. As for the second one, there are many pages, like for example, we're going to go over an example later. You got the home page, which is, it doesn't hold a session, so you don't need to be logged in to watch the home page. And perhaps there are some areas in that home page that you want to have something that is dynamic, like, for example, it's like when you have this typical Facebook widget, well, but it's your own widget. So you want the whole page being processed and rendered by Varnish, but some of the areas you would like to keep them out of that cache version. So we can do it this way as well.
When juampy here is telling you about Varnish, is just like having the idea that you're serving static HTML, like some of you, the older guys here, used to do back in, I don't know when, where you had the HTML and you typed everything from hand. So the idea is that you serve static content, but you need some dynamic pages, and that's the edge side includes how to solve that without going into edge side includes for Varnish.
So to whoever is interested in Varnish, after this talk, there's another session by Pedro Gonzalez. He's going to talk about performance, and obviously that involves the Varnish as well. And then the last one is that if you have a Drupal site that serves only the backend, and then the rest are just clients, for example, your website client or a mobile client or some third-party clients that pull data from your site, you have no front end. So if you ever, for example, upgrade from Drupal 6 to Drupal 7, you don't need to throw the front end to the trash because theming system changed from 6 to 7. You just upgrade the backend from 6 to 7. As long as you keep the same API, the rest of the clients consuming your API won't notice a change. So it would make in the long term projects much more sustainable, because handling core upgrades would be obviously a much easier process. So we're going to go over some of these three in more detail. You want to go over this one, Mateo?
Yeah, well, I know for a fact that some of you here work as a themer, and I don't know about you. I don't do much theming these days, but the first time that I had to theme a Drupal site, it was a nightmare. I mean, I didn't know how to make the page render the HTML that I wanted in order to make it look how the client wanted. So it's hard to get from a designer point of view, or from a prototype to a final product in Drupal. And there's much that's being done in Drupal 8, but that's the future. Now we are stuck with this templating system that renders such many div tags for fields, and you have to just know how to make this look like you want. You have display suite tricks, and well, you have a lot of tricks to make this work, but you have to know those tricks. So from a themer's point of view, Drupal is hard. And the other side is, hey themer, I'm going to give you the data, you're going to write the HTML that you want for this part, and then you're going to style it like you want, and yeah, that's it. Enjoy your free time.
This is like heaven for themers, because they don't really need to take, but first of all, they hate how many diffs that the Drupal produces in the output, and then it gives them a chance to use different technologies just to see how they can explore on HTML5. Anyway, write the HTML however they want and with the technologies they want. So obviously, it makes it much easier to find people, because they don't really need to know how the Drupal theming system works. I give it to you. You can start this one.
Okay, yeah. Well, as we were saying before, when you have a lot of load in a page, you need to start considering some of these reverse proxy technologies, right? Because from every point of view, you need to do that for performance reasons, because if you don't do that, you have to scale probably horizontally and pay more iron for serving the same thing. So you're basically serving this page here as if it was a static HTML, and that is blazingly fast, right? Except for a thing, you don't want to serve everyone a front page for the MS MVC telling them, hi, juampy, right? You want to make that hi Juampy, hi Javier, or hi whatever the user is. So that part is dynamic. In this case, what we are doing in this site is we are just rendering the front page using Drupal and serving it using Varnish, but then we are inserting the header there using AngularJS.
The thing is that in this particular example, the client was requesting that they wanted to be able to embed the header and the footer in other sites, like third-party sites, landing pages they had, but they did want that to look exactly the same as this site. So that's why the whole menu system and part of the search box is delivered through Angular. Angular makes a request and fetches some of this data and renders it. And so what we gave them is just, well, you just need to load AngularJS, you need to load this particular library that is in our server, which is the one that takes care of rendering the header, and then in your HTML, you place this particular tag, and that's it. Angular takes care of processing this tag and rendering the menu. So this is one of those examples. This is a different server that is loading the header. Well, the footer is not here, but it's also there. And the look and feel is exactly the same. So all the header is being rendered by AngularJS, and the rest is whatever. We don't know. It's an external site. Well, I just went through over this a few minutes ago. I have an example here. We gave a talk a few years, not a few years ago, a couple years ago, about decoupling Drupal, and we went over this example, which is kind of the main big example of decoupling. This guy, Daniel Jacobson, he's now the CTO at Netflix. He's the one who manages or who makes decisions on the API, how it's structured. And the thing is that when he had to build the National Public Radio system, instead of building it on top of a massive CMS that would hold everything, he just built a backend site which was exposing an API, and there were like 10 or 15 different clients that would serve that data in different ways. And the reason, because he built this site this way, it has been working for more than 12 years. Obviously, the core backend has evolved, but as I said before, it can evolve without affecting the other clients. As long as it keeps the same APIs that they are offering, it's fine. You don't need to bother telling clients, hey, you need to change this method because it doesn't exist anymore. As long as you respect that, then it's fine. You can make any changes you want. So at the end, it makes projects to live much longer, which obviously for a client is really, really nice.
So as you may have seen, there are two approaches to this. You can decouple just a part of the site, or you can completely decouple the front end from the back end, which is this example.
So here's an image that illustrates that. Drupal will be just the back end, that's it. And there would be some other Drupal sites serving on the front end and whatever you want.
So in Drupal 8, this is gonna be easy and fun, just like everything else. But in Drupal 7, you can already do this. You have to struggle through maybe services or REST WS or the RESTful module.
There is a Mitais module as well.
Yeah. And yeah, a Mitais module. And then you have an API that you can expose to fully decouple your Drupal from your whatever technology you want to use in the front end.
So that's why we got to the point that I was working on a ticket and someone told me, hey, why don't you try to do this with AngularJS? And my first feeling was that I grabbed the basics of it really easily because it's an MVC structure. So MVC stands for Model View Controller, which is if you've done anything with Symfony, and if you don't, you will, because Drupal 8 comes with Symfony 2. It has the same structure. So many of the patterns you see in AngularJS are also in Symfony. So so as in other technologies as well. But it really helps, and it does things in a way that it's kind of, I mean, I had this feeling that, for example, when I would work with JavaScript technologies, and I would add a library to my website, sometimes there would be collisions between libraries, and the way AngularJS is built, it kind of takes a different path, and so you can use it along with other libraries without any issue, and even if you need to, you can use jQuery with AngularJS, no problem.
So another reason for using AngularJS in that project, it was because it was the new thing and the hot thing in that moment, and it is for a reason. You don't have to go through all the DOM modifications that you usually go with jQuery, and you have other concepts like, for instance, directive. Go back to the slide, please. So a directive is not more than a way of telling Angular, hey, this tag here is gonna become some content, some rendered content, right? So you have several ways to, can you see this from the back? Can we make it?
I'm gonna have to kill this.
Okay, we are hacking JS Fiddle.
How about that? Too small at the back? It's okay? Okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay, so here we are seeing a couple of things that we were commenting before. One of them is that we are using Bootstrap, the library, to style our content. Can you see how this? Can you see this nice gray here, and then these icons, and this is Bootstrap, and this is because you have control over your markup, and you can say, hey, this is a container with a panel. This is a panel, and this is the heading, and this is the body, and also you won't see this, but this is responsive. Okay, well, this is what you get out of the box. Bootstrap has a lot of pitfalls, but well, this is nice to just have a prototype working. So for the Angular part, there is, wow, it's very hard to read.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to make this explicit. So this is the output of this HTML rendered with this JavaScript here. Okay, and this is some CSS that I used to make this look green. And what we have here are different directives. So this is one where we are using, oh sorry, this is the second one. This is one where we are using a div tag with a custom attribute that you don't have to declare anywhere. You just use it.
Wait. Oh.
Oh no.
Give me a sec, give me a sec.
Okay, but we will need the JS.
No. Wait.
Oh, you're smart.
Like demo. Oh. There you are. Yeah. How about that?
Okay, we lost the coloring, but no, we can see something. So I was telling you that we are adding this attribute, this C going, and then just putting some text in there. In the second version of this, I'm just using a complete different tag that I made up. Another version of directive would be having this, but instead of a new attribute, as a data attribute. This is nicer because this passes validation. And if you can't use data attributes, you can also use it as a class, which is also nice. And for the JavaScript part, you just say, well, this is my Angular module, which is a a way of bundling some features in Angular. I won't go into the module concept, but you say, hey, this is my directive, and it's called DC going. Notice that we are doing camel case here instead of dashes. So this is a difference. And then you can say, okay, so everything that matches my DC going is gonna become, here you specify the template, in this span, this is the little icon that you were seeing before. And then hello DrupalCamp Spain 2014. And this restrict here, what I'm saying is only do this for directives that are of the type attribute. So if we go back to JS Fiddle, we'll see that the output only applies the first and the third. But if we say, okay, apply this for everything, and you change this for EAC, and then run.
That's
Okay.
because I broke it. Wait. Well, I hope so. Oh, yeah, there you are.
You can see that now it applies to everything. So we have this way in AngularJS of changing something that originally was this goes away to use a different template. And this was specified here, and this was hard-coded just for this example. But you can imagine that you can then here say, okay, my template is going to be this HTML that is stored in this file. Okay, so you are just serving these HTMLs, but that's not really very interesting because there's no dynamic part in here. You're just rendering some text, right? So to introduce the variables and the dynamic part, we need to talk a little bit about a controller. And a controller is just...
Shall I open this in Vim?
Yeah, go back to the... No, to the slide.
Oh.
Yeah. So the controller is just a function that you use to modify your scope. And your scope is just... let's call it a variable or your model where you can attach your variables. So from there, you can have your variables exposed to your directives and to your templates, right? So the example.
Shall I move this to Vim or not?
No need,
Okay.
actually. So the example here, oh. It's not this one. This one.
How about this one?
No.
Hmm?
Is this link broken? Oh, this is nice. Wow. Okay.
It's not the same link.
No. It's taking me to a different link. Just copy the text.
Like this?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna need to go a little bit faster. So here you have the controller. The directive is the same thing, but just we have now just one directive with the data attribute here, and then we have this controller that you declare somewhere to enclose your HTML. So that controller applies to all the article, right? Everything that's inside here. So when you are declaring the controller, you have this variable that you inject that is called scope. That was the variable that I was telling you about before. And in here, you can say, okay, inside the scope, I'm going to declare the name, which is going to be the initial, hey ho. Okay, so when I render the directive, if you scroll up a bit in the JavaScript, you can see that I'm saying the Ramones and then the name. And this is a little bit more interesting because this is a variable that you can manipulate. And then after that, in my HTML, I'm saying, hey, when I'm clicking this, call this function. Okay, this is just how JavaScript works. But this function is declared in our scope, which is really interesting because you don't have name collisions and all that stuff. And what all that this does is just changing the name from the initial name to the final name. So if you click in the update, say, hey ho, let's go.
Go on.
So basically, these are the most interesting concepts that you have in Angular. But the sexiest part of Angular is the two-way data binding. And that is that if you change something in the controller, it will reflect in the view. And if you change it in the view, it will reflect in the controller without any other support code that goes with this. And this is what makes it.
Mateo, I'd like to add something on top of that. I was explaining to Jose, actually, something about this. Like normally, for example, when you're working, for example, you're implementing a Drupal behavior, and in your JavaScript code, you do some processing at some event, and then at the end, when you want to reflect that on the HTML, you would do $, some selector, something, text or value, whatever. With two-way data binding, where you're doing is you're just changing the value of JavaScript variables, and those variables are bind with the template. So whatever you change there, it will affect in the template. So therefore, that makes your code much cleaner because you don't need to take care of which ID this particular item has. In the template, you have this item is bound to this variable, so you can play around in the Angular code with that variable, and you got the two-way data binding.
So did you notice that in the previous examples, we didn't target any IDs or classes in the JavaScript?
Shall I open an example?
So this is intentional. It's the same thing. You have to.
Well, I'm gonna exit it.
Just to give an example of this,
Yep.
The perfect example for the two-way data binding is I'm gonna add some variable in here, some text in here, and it's gonna reflect in the other fields. So if I start typing DrupalCamp or Drupal, you can see that there's this number 6 that is counting the characters, and then this is just outputting the variable. And actually, what is going on is that you say here, in the input tag, without having to target this with a class or an ID, you are saying, okay, my model, since this is an input, and this is where users are going to insert their content, I'm going to bind my model and call it live option, and this is going to be made available both to the template, and then I can use it I can use it here, but also to the JavaScript, and I can use it in a function here. So when I update this in the template, just goes to the, okay.
It's not working. Try to reload the page.
Okay, anyway, when you update it here, it goes to the JS part and gets the new value, and then it can compute the correct number, and the correct number goes to the template, and you can do this with a simple lines of code, right? So this is the good stuff about AngularJS. So the question here is, why am I creating a new variable called length using a scope live option length instead of just going here at the HTML level, and when I'm using length, typing here live option dot length, right? The answer is that I didn't want to make the example too complicated, so it's just, you know, you can call a web service here with the data that the user is inputting and just make, I don't know, a search on Flickr or whatever.
Hey, why is this not? There you are. Okay, may I go here? So I remember I wrote an article about how we were decoupling parts of Drupal with AngularJS, and many people were coming with the question of, hey, why don't you do this with jQuery, because you can, obviously you can, or what happens with Backbone, because for example Drupal 8 uses Backbone, and people were like curious about what would be the differences. I could tell what the differences were with jQuery because I know it. I've never used Backbone in a project, so I couldn't make such a difference. But there was a, who made it? You did it. Was it you? No, it was, sorry, I thought it was you. It was another guy. David Corbacho made it. Basically, there was this discussion where we were discussing it, and this guy, David Corbacho, made this 3 examples of how the same piece of logic would work. Basically, this article was about writing, where was the working example? There you are. It was a very simple block of just typing the weather, I mean the city here, and it will tell you the weather. It would just query the, I think it's weather.com API, and it will tell you the current weather. So this would be the, well, there's so many fiddles here open. Give me a sec. No, I'll stay in this one. Not this one. Yeah, leave this one. And leave this one. Okay, I'm gonna try to open them now again. So here, hey, why don't you go down? Oh, there you are. So this would be the first one. This is AngularJS. So this is all code that we've already seen. We are making here a JSON-P request. JSON-P requests JSON-P is a workaround. So you can make requests from your website to services in different domains. Some browsers, like for example Chrome or Firefox, if you try to do that thing, it won't let you do it because you may be calling some other unexpected service. That could be an attack. So if you're using JSON-P, you know better than me how JSON-P works. But anyway, it's out of the scope. Yeah, I'm not able to explain it. You do, but anyway, we discussed about this before. He knows how it works. If you want to ask him. Anyway, JSON-P works, and this way we can query the API and then fetch the results, and again set some variables, and automatically we're gonna see this in the output. If we go to the second example in jQuery, obviously you can do the same thing in jQuery. But in jQuery, obviously you need to take care as well of what IDs are you setting, because you need to reference these IDs when you're setting the values. So that makes, first of all, the HTML much more verbose, because you need to define IDs or classes that you can reference from your code. And then at the end, this is our jQuery code. And at the end of it, we obviously need to set the variables, because there is no this binding as well. So you can do it, but it's much more verbose and much longer to write. As for the backbone, I discovered lately that Backbone also supports two-way data binding. And however, this example doesn't support it. So pretty much the same thing. We make the request, and then at the end, the values are set. Actually, they are set with the jQuery, but a couple of weeks ago, I gave this session somewhere else, and someone who knows Backbone told me, no, if you set this up in a different way, you can do this with Backbone as well, and you don't need to set the variables explicitly from the code as well. So let's say that Backbone can also do it, which is good, because Backbone is going to be using Drupal 8, so it's a good sign.
This doesn't mean that with Angular you don't need jQuery anymore, and you have to forget all about jQuery. Actually, Angular comes with jQuery Lite, which is a light version of jQuery. So yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of code with the jQuery and the Backbone examples, and the Angular one was cleaner, clearer.
I'm gonna.
It was nicer. I know.
So this is another example. We had to build this contact form, and the requirements from the client were that we didn't have to send this to Drupal when the contact form was submitted. We needed to make a call to a JavaScript third-party service that will take care of the actual email submission. We just had to submit the results from this form. So again, we thought, okay, we could do this with Form API in Drupal. Well, we don't really need to. So that's why instead we used AngularJS forms, which turned out to be great. HTML5, a lot of nice formatting by default given by AngularJS. It was a really nice experience. So this form is served from a Drupal site. This site is using panels. So this is a pane. This is actually a CTools content type plugin. I don't know why the hell the name is so long, but it's just a plugin. It's like a block, and you place it here in this particular region of the panel, and that's it. So I'm gonna open the actual page. Not yet.
So this makes a lot of sense, because when you submit the form, you are not hitting Drupal. You're hitting some other web service.
Links are funny. I mean, is it? No, this is the wrong. Anyway, I can open this myself.
The nice thing about AngularJS and forms is that it comes with so many helper variables. Like, for instance, you have a variable that you can use to know if some parts of the form have been filled, and you know if the field is pristine, like everything is clean, or the field is dirty. The form is dirty, or some fields have errors in it. You get all these. You get all this, and obviously you can style the form accordingly.
So here's a simplified version of this form. It's just the form, and that's it. And obviously, when you click submit, it does validation as well. And I'm gonna quickly fill it. Nature, whatever, URL. Okay, Solar. Don't know why it filled out with Solar. If I click submit, it did kind of a very, very fast sending. That's a plugin that we installed for showing a loading bar. And finally did submit it, that's it. So if we go at the code, and well, this looks bigger than with the other examples. We're just loading, well, we're also first defining here the application, the Angular application. So Angular is going to take care of part of the HTML here. We're loading AngularJS. We are loading this plugin that I mentioned for the loading bar. This would be our application. And this is a controller, which is the one that is going to take care of setting some of the values. Just out of fun, I just set this a select with this options list. It's really not needed because there's nothing dynamic in this select field. But just to try it, if you need something dynamic, you can do it this way. And this will be the submit handler. Like when you click on submit. The form object that is bound to the actual form will keep track of whether if there are any error validations. AngularJS will automatically validate your fields for you, and will keep track for each of the fields to see, for example, an email was invalid or an email was not that was required was not filled up. So you get that by default just by installing AngularJS core. And here's how we set up the request that we're going to make, and here's yet again another JSON-P request where we send the data, get back the results, and finally again just to display, for example, that hey, there was an error, or hey, your form was sent. We are just setting variables and a timeout. There are a lot of services that that AngularJS offers you. Like for example, there is a timeout service that you inject in the controller. Here it is, and it's like the JavaScript default timeout. It's nothing more than that.
So,
yep.
So basically, if you knew AngularJS before you got here, you learned nothing about AngularJS because this is basic stuff. And if you didn't know anything, then maybe this is a teaser for going and researching about this AngularJS thing and making it an excuse to get out of your comfort zone as a developer and learn new things, new patterns, new development skills, and integrate it with Drupal and get for free all those advantages that we were talking about at the beginning.
We didn't cover, by the way, full decoupling. Like we didn't show a Drupal that serves as the backend and uses a client, because currently we are still investigating how safe is to do that, especially when you need to modify the data. So should we use OAuth? Should we use HTTPS? What happens if we get hacked? So we're still investigating on that. So that's why we didn't cover that part, because we don't really know about it yet.
And this is the last
thing.
And
that's the end, by the way.
If you want to just visit a website that we built fully decoupled, you can go to the Jimmy Fallon site. But that is not interacting with the Drupal backend. It's just serving fully decoupled content. It's only read. There's no writes.
So, any questions?
My question is about SEO. What is the relationship between SEO and this solution using Angular, since the HTML is completely different?
Okay, so yeah, with these one-page apps, and Angular is a technology that is mainly used on one-page apps, you have the problem of SEO, right? But just until recently, for some reason, Google is behind this AngularJS stuff, and it started crawling automatically without doing anything these Angular sites. Before that, you had to do some tricks using Phantom.js with this browser to
there is a
serve.
library called pretend.js that kind of shows you a fully rendered version. So for a crawler, it's like, okay, so this is an HTML page. It's not a JavaScript power page, let's say. Okay. So okay. If you look for pretend.js or for what you said about Phantom.js as well, that's what people is doing.
Okay.
But now you just don't need to worry about it because Google is doing it for you.
Yeah. Thing is that
just magically. Yeah.
AngularJS is engineered by Google, so obviously they're going to take care of indexing that in their search box.
Any question?
Well, as you get, also there is the thing that the parts that we have decoupled are not critical. I mean, we don't want that, that's dynamic stuff, so we don't want that stuff to be indexed by Google. So that's why we don't really care. Yep.
Hi. These are two questions really related to one to another. Have you found, when developing AngularJS, any performance issues related to CPU consumed, for example? And particularly because we have developed an application on AngularJS, and not Drupal, but Symfony on the backend. And especially with the finding a data table component, as we have in jQuery, which is very useful because you have not to reinvent the wheel. But have you used any data table component, full component in AngularJS, and have you found any significant performance issues?
I haven't myself.
So, yeah, they always say that DOM manipulation is expensive in terms of performance, and in Angular you don't do this DOM manipulation, but you have this digest cycle, which is behind this two-way data binding, and that thing is expensive. So if you're using the digest cycle, there are other concepts like the watch service and other things that you can just tell Angular to keep an eye on things while he's doing its own thing. So that's expensive, and it's really easy to fall in this performance stuff. So yeah,
it's normal.
Depending on your needs, you're gonna have to do creative things. I don't know.
Any more questions? No more questions? Okay, thank you very much.